No Shedeur Sanders, no Travis Hunter. How does Deion respond? Let's do a college football preview for the Colorado Buffaloes. Once again, one of the most talked about teams in college football over the last 2 years. I'm going to talk about the stars for this team, some storylines, losses and additions to this roster, as well as an X Factor game in the schedule and a record prediction to follow. Let's hop right into it. Let's talk about the stars for this team. I think Jordan Seaton, this is my hot take probably of the year, is the best Deion Sanders recruit that he will have in the first 5 years of his career. Better than Shedeur, better than Travis Hunter. And that's saying a lot because Travis Hunter is a generational talent. Now, I'm talking pro better. I think Jordan Seaton will have a better pro career than Travis Hunter. This is going to be the best player on the roster by far. And Anchor has been a superstar for this team so far, and I expect that he will continue to do the same thing. Now, moving into the rest of this offensive line, you've got another guy that's coming in who's played a ton of tackle and is currently projected to play guard. I'm talking about Xavier Hill, who comes from Memphis, started 28 games at Memphis and LSU. I think he's going to be a major part of shoring up this offensive line to protect the backfield. Speaking of the backfield, there's a quarterback battle currently going on. As of right now, I'm going to give the lean to Caden Salter from Liberty. Quarterback in his junior year had 4,000 total yards, 44 touchdowns. Senior year was a little disappointing. I'll get into that in a moment, but once again, you can see the potential with this guy. The production has already been produced on a college football field. I think he'll end up winning the quarterback battle and start the beginning of the season as the Buff starting quarterback. Moving into the defensive side of things, I want to talk about a few guys that are Deion's guys. DJ McKinney, that's a Deion guy in my opinion. Cornerback last year for Colorado, 3 interceptions, 9 pass deflections. Going to have to pick up the slack as cornerback number 1 now that Travis Hunter is gone. On the defensive line, Jaheim Otis transfers from Alabama in a very strange scenario that I will get into in just a little bit, but he played 29 total games for the Crimson Tide before transferring to the Buffs. And then last but certainly not least, this is a Deion recruit, Carter Stoutmire. 7 pass deflections, a forced fumble last season at safety. He is going to have to kind of fill that Shiloh Sanders role where he is all over the field. Now, let's talk about, of course, the major storyline of this upcoming year. This is Deion Sanders' biggest test of his college football coaching career. And I'm talking about more of a test than his first season at Jackson State, more of a test than his first season at Colorado. He's never coached a game of college football without Shedeur at the helm. I think. I'm like 99% certain. He has also had 3 seasons of probably the best player in college football outside of quarterbacks, period, in the 21st century in Travis Hunter. Nobody in college football history that has been recorded has more snaps played than Travis Hunter. Can Deion respond to winning games in the Big 12 without those 2 guys? What does this team look like without the vast majority of its offensive production coming back? Now let's talk about that. The losses for this team, astronomical. Travis Hunter, once again, corner and wide receiver, 1,200 receiving yards, 15 total offensive touchdowns, 11 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, a forced fumble last year that came in an extremely pivotal moment versus North Dakota State. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, goes to the Cleveland Browns. 4,000 yards passing, 37 touchdowns last year. And then one of his major weapons from last season, LeJontay Webster, wide receiver, goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Probably be a special teams guy there, but 931 yards, 10 touchdowns. So alone, we're talking 80% or 70 to 80% of the offensive production from this team has gone out the window to the NFL. Then defensively, BJ Green, a guy that I highlighted in Colorado's preview last year, transferred in from Arizona State, 7.5 sacks, 33 tackles for the Buffs last year. He goes on, he's playing for the Jaguars with Travis Hunter. And then last but certainly not least, Shiloh Sanders, safety. You know, he started his career at South Carolina, transfers to Jackson State, comes with his dad to Colorado, and to be honest, he might have been the heart and soul of that defense outside of Travis Hunter. 67 tackles, 9 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble last year. He had that electric pick 6 versus Colorado State a couple of years ago. These are guys that are not only good players on the field, but also were the culture builders of that locker room over the 2 seasons at Colorado with Deion. Those are some major, major losses. Now, who's coming in? The additions to this roster. I've already talked about a few of them. Matter of fact, I've talked about 3 of the 4 of them. Caden Salter, quarterback, Jaheim Otis, defensive tackle, Xavier Hill, offensive tackle. Now, Jaheim Otis, once again, only played 4 games last year for Alabama before hitting the transfer portal window. I think he took a red shirt as well so that he could retain some eligibility. Very suspicious situation. I think he was expected to be a starter for Alabama, ended up not being that, and I think he just didn't want to waste a year of his college football career on the bench. So he hits the portal, heads to Colorado. I think he's going to be a major impact guy for this team. Somebody that's going to have to kind of fill BJ Green's shoes. Once again, not an edge rusher, but a guy that's going to have to control the front 7. Now, last but certainly not least, a guy that's being added to this roster, a dark horse that I have not seen any major media outlet talk about yet, Sincere Brown, a wide receiver from Campbell. Christian College, FCS school, 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns last year as a sophomore. Originally started out at South Florida, transferred to Campbell last year, and now comes to meet Deion in Colorado. I think he could be a guy that steps up, plays immediately, and fills that role of a LeJontay Webster. We'll see what happens, but an underrated guy to say the least that comes in to the Colorado Buffaloes program. Couple more storylines I want to talk about. Number 1, once again, for the 3rd season in a row, Deion Sanders is revamping the vast majority of this offensive line. In his first 2 years at Colorado, the Buffaloes have allowed 99 total sacks. That's the most in college football. Now, they did make some improvements from year 1 to year 2. I believe they allowed 62 sacks, and then they allowed 47 sacks or something along those lines from year 1 to year 2. Can they continue to make improvements and protect their quarterback better? I think this is the best offensive line that Colorado's had throughout Deion's tenure there. They're going to make some improvements, and I expect them to also run the football a little bit more without Shedeur and Travis Hunter, LeJontay Webster, and somebody that I didn't even talk about, a couple of other receivers that also moved on to the NFL. Now, last storyline, but certainly not the least of it, the Colorado defense actually last year was pretty good. They were top 20 in sacks and interceptions. They only allowed 23 points per game. When you look at the games that were lost, I would not put blame on the Colorado defense. I think Shedeur and the Colorado offense just did not play up to par, specifically in that Nebraska game. I think the offense fell flat on its face. So with that being said, I think the continuity and consistency of this production from the Colorado defense is the must-have for this team to continue to be successful. But once again, they've lost a ton of their impact players. So we shall see if the transfers that are coming in can be coached up by guys like Deion Sanders in this new climate of the Big 12 with no Shedeur Sanders and no Travis Hunter. So let's talk about the X Factor game. I think that is a revenge game versus BYU. Can Colorado beat BYU at home, game 5 of the season? That could be a game where a bowl game berth is on the line, looking at it from the end of the year. So we shall see. I think without Jake Retzlaff there, that's a very winnable game for Colorado. I think the quarterback battle is going to play a major impact in all of this. The fact that they haven't picked a starter yet is kind of alarming, but I digress. Let's hop into the record prediction. Game number 1, Georgia Tech going in there. I think Georgia Tech has a ton of returning talent, especially in the run game. They play a physical brand of football, and I don't think Colorado's defense is ready to match against that. We forget Georgia Tech, yes, only went 7-6, but not only beat Miami, but was extremely competitive against Georgia. 8 overtimes last year, went band for band, and I think they could come in and ring Colorado's bell game number 1. Loss. Home for Delaware, that's an easy win. I don't expect that to be a problem for Deion. And then at Houston, I think Houston is still trying to get their legs under them, and I think Colorado, even though they're missing a ton of production, can come in and take a game on the road. Then Wyoming and BYU, back-to-back home games, a Mountain West school, and then BYU without Jake Retzlaff. I think Colorado, even though BYU is extremely well coached, can win both of those games, be 4-1 heading into the rest of the season. But ladies and gentlemen, the going gets tough after that. At TCU, this is not the TCU team that went, I believe, 5-7 or 6-6 a couple of years ago when Colorado was able to pull off the shocker. This is a TCU team that is reloaded and ready to compete for a Big 12 title. Josh Hoover is one of the best QBs in the Big 12, and I think they are going to take advantage of the home field advantage here, get the dub versus Colorado. Next, Iowa State at home. Even though they lose Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, I think Iowa State's defense is still very good. Rocco Beck is a quarterback that I trust. He has performed on almost every stage. And I think even though it's at home, Colorado falls a little bit short. Would I be shocked if they win that game? Absolutely not. But then at Utah, Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. He struggled to beat Colorado last year. I do not think that will be the same case this year. They have solved their quarterback issue, I believe. I guess we'll see as the season goes on. Colorado could still be in the midst of a quarterback battle. Once again, it's alarming to me that they have not chosen a starter yet, but I'm going to move on here. I think at Utah is too tall of a task. That's a loss. Arizona at home. I think that's the last win of the season. Yes, I like Noah Fafita, but missing Ted McMillan and a couple of other guys like Takario Davis from a couple of seasons ago follows Jed Fish to Washington. I don't think Arizona has rebounded. So I think Arizona comes into Colorado and takes an L like they did last year. At West Virginia, that Rich Rod team is not going to be a great one, but I can guarantee you that they're going to pound the rock, and that has been something that Deion Sanders and these Colorado Buffaloes aren't going to be able to handle. I think that's a loss, but a very winnable game. ASU at home, upset alert at the start of the season. I don't think that they're going to win it, but I definitely think they have way more of a shot than people are giving them. Arizona State, I don't think is going to be as good as they were last year, especially losing a guy like Cam Scatabo. So Colorado can come in, get an upset W against a playoff contending team, but I do want to tell you right now, I favor Arizona State in this game, even though Colorado's at home. Probably about a 53-54% chance for Arizona State to win that game. So I will lean towards them and give Colorado the L. And then at Kansas State, I think Kansas State, as it sits right now, is my second favorite to win the Big 12. And the game on the road and the last game of the season where Kansas State is probably competing for a Big 12 championship bid, I'm going to give the edge to Kansas State. Avery Johnson is a Heisman dark horse in my opinion. I can't say the same about anybody else on this Colorado roster. So to close out my record prediction, I've got Colorado going 5-7. That could easily be 6-6 or 7-5. I'm taking the low end of the spectrum here. I just don't know how you rebound from losing so many impactful players. Deion might be on the retirement storyline here by the end of the year. I mean, of course, he's had a lot of health issues, and I'm extremely excited to find out that he beat bladder cancer. I'm one of the biggest Deion fans. I also love Shador and Travis Hunter. I was screaming at my TV watching him, Shador, in his first preseason game versus the Panthers. I want them all to succeed, but these previews are reality-based. It's not what I want. It's what I'm expecting and what I'm thinking. And what I think is Colorado is going to go 5-7. This might be Deion's last season. He doesn't have his sons anymore to motivate him to coach. You know, I don't know what drives his motor or like what gets him going to coach, but I definitely think missing your sons going through all these health concerns could be a driving factor towards retirement. So with that being said, 5-7 is my record prediction. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.